to
All right.
progress. Yeah.
Cool. So this is our idea, Shut-Eye. Shut-Eye is a 2D isometric horror adventure game, and it is built around the dreams of the main character, and the dreams, like the adventures within. With various mini-games, puzzles, and tasks, players will explore and meet new people, saving in between levels by waking up and writing in your dream journal. A basic game loop. Just as a note, if the player fails a minigame or puzzle, they will just be reset to the beginning of the minigame or the search for the puzzle. So, at the beginning, your dream starts, and this is when the player falls asleep and starts the story at the train station. Second, the mechanic for the specific minigame is introduced based on the context of the story. You will be given a straightforward mission for that. The gameplay, players will go into the gameplay solving and completing mini-games and puzzles to tie the story together. And lastly, once you piece the dream back together, you fend off the whale, which is our main antagonist, for good, and you wake up alive and safe, and that's the end of the game. I think that's it.
Cool. So hello, I'm Kai,
Hello, my name is Leo.
and we'll be going over the main aspects of the engineering of this game. The 3 C's, the characters, the controls, and the camera. Starting off with the characters, we want to make sure that we're staying true to the 4 pillars of object-oriented programming to make stuff as efficient as possible. To do this, any characters will be sorted into subclasses of an entity parent class. All interactable objects will be a part of this entity class, and that will allow us to share attributes across certain subclasses of the entity class, such as maybe there's a living subclass and a non-living subclass where share different methods and attributes between them. For example, living entities, such as the player, NPCs, or monsters, could share attributes such as health or methods to move around and animate while they're doing so. Non-living entities could share stuff such as like an isActive variable, which allows us to know whether or not that certain non-living entity has been interacted with. Here's an example of a tree that could be used to kind of map out how we would program this all and what objects would inherit attributes from other objects. Every entity, the parent class of all entities, will contain 2 things: a rigid body attribute and an invisible game object attribute. The rigid body will be so that any subclass of the entity can interact with the physics engine that Unity has, and the invisible circle game object will allow us to measure interactions between different subclasses of the parent class of entity. Things that involve this invisible game object could be 2 methods, mainly an interact with method and an interacted with by method, which will allow us to easily see between entities what is interacting with the other one and then receive that interaction using the other method. It is important to note that these won't be standalone methods in the parent class, so the instructions will only be written in the parent that all the subclasses inherit, but the instructions can also be overwritten and kind of expanded upon within each subclass.
So for our controls, we will be using a joystick from Unity's built-in integrated joystick input, and our aim for a character is to strike a balance between smoothness and also responsiveness. So we will also be having our own special system that will adapt to that. We also have a interact button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, which will be used to interact with all objects in the world. For our camera, we will be having a 2.5 dimensional character screen. So it'll be an isometric view, and it will follow the player smoothly while having orthographic projection. This is accomplished by using Unity's Cinemachine camera system, and that is an example of what it would look like.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Lowe. I'm one of the writers and artists, and in order to make a fully integrated story, we wanted to not only bring the people in to play the game, but also to have a very cool experience, like a book experience when seeing all the very interesting animations that we're going to create with our artists. So what we have is an overarching character arc for the character B throughout the different environments. They're gonna face challenges that both affect the player's gameplay and also more subtle ones that people can relate to as they play the game. So they're not just playing to complete the task and mindlessly. There are archetypes that will occur in different forms, revealing B's attachment to real people in their life, as we have in real life and in a lot of stories. And then there's suspense and symbolism in order to keep the game flowing, with the recurrent sightings of a whale, and as we see the dream world becoming more and more nightmarish as it moves on. So the overarching character arc for the character B they start out in their comfort zone, and then they move to being more scared as their dreams start to kind of collapse in on them, and as more and more things kind of show themselves as being like scary. And then the ending state is confidence. So what works well with this is there's going to be a lot of engagement, a potential for plot twists within the dreams, and the repeating theme creates a lot of cohesiveness. It's going to bring the art style together and the writing style, and there's going to be able to be a storybook narrative and a lot of relatability within it. What we need to watch out for, however, would be that perhaps it's going to be a little bit too contemplative, so we don't want to bring in too much so that the player feels more like they're reading versus just playing a game. And so we need to make sure that it's continuous and smooth flowing. And then it may be shorter than expected due to scope, but we're going to make sure that we plan each part out very carefully so that doesn't happen. And so when we do our vertical slice in a few weeks, it's going to show exactly how much we can do to prove that we can in fact do multiple complete storylines within the dreams. Oh, this slide didn't update.
Oh.
Could I go out and come back in?
Sorry, one quick moment on.
There.
Did it update?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where is it? Gotta get it back over here. Gotta bring this back down. Over here. Slideshow. There you go.
All right, so our writing for the narratives, more specifically, just starts off with B being in a dark, scary mansion. There's a train run by wolves, which kind of gives like proof to the fact that they're definitely in a dream. We're calling it the choo 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 right now because they're wolves. Some dream ideas. First of all, B would start in a gothic castle where a distressed royal advisor needs help completing tasks over the kingdom. So that leads to the straightforwardness of the tasks. There's no question on what the player needs to do. There's Sweet Sweet Abyss, Candyland, where young Candy has lost something and needs B to help them. And then there's also the Shattered Land, which is kind of the final dream sequence where the whale kind of fully appears and is there to resolve the final conflict. Characters repeat in every world, so they are displayed in both the idealized form, a realistic form, and a nightmarish form. And again, this leads to a lot of like things that people can point out to each other, and it just kind of interesting things for people to think about while they play the game. Some examples would be like the younger sister who loses things often and needs a lot of help, or the older brother who talks in an old style, like very old, and is maybe hard to understand, and then they realize later that it was just like the older brother all the time, the whole time. And then there's the strange aunt and the best friend, who all of them are going to be journeying with B and making all the narrative come together. Next we have.
All right. So, I'm Emma Young. I am the creative director and artist, and here's our art style thing. So, okay, you can start.
All right.
My name is Sophia Lacani. I'm also an artist and animator. We're going for a warm, childlike storybook art style with many different sorts depending on which like dream world you're in, and having a mix of a little bit of everything, so our players would want to stay connected to the game and want to see more of it. We have some concept art over here of Bee and the whale and like our train station. And do you want to talk about yours?
Yeah, there's a little scarecrow guy that I thought would be cute, and some just little different style ideas of what we could possibly do.
We also have another artist, Brianna. She did this beautiful emo guy here. She's a great artist, but she's not here today because she's on a flight to Mexico.
So the art style that we're, like I said, we're going for like a sketchy kind of children's book, to like fun and whimsical and a little bit creepy sometimes. It can change like more as it gets scarier, but at first it's like you're reading just a little fairy tale thing. There's like, sharp angles, thick lines, whimsical gothic, and with like detailed backgrounds, kind of simplish characters for good animations and all that stuff. And so, let's see. We wanted to have like we want to be unique and like eye-catching, kind of original, and some parts of it to like maybe imply the horror aspect, whimsical, and make it easy for programmers to work with or something.
What to look out for? It might be underestimated by its simple style, and it might be seen as odd, and maybe not draw as many players, but I think that the style that we're all kind of going for is our whimsical, spooky, cute storybook. I think that it will have a good effect on players, and just by looking at like how we put it out into the public, that it will be able to have that reputation that it is a cozy kind of horror game, and that it will come with a lot of surprises. Okay, animation. There's a little doodle of the whale. Our animation style, we could always change it, but it's 2D animation, but it's drawn to mock isometric features, which is, as you've seen before, seeing like the character play beforehand instead of from first person. And I picture it being with sketchy 3-frame or something idols, which show kind of like a little bit of liveliness, a little bit of coziness within the characters. Most being minimal to kind of create like a sort of sense where the player can kind of come up with their own imagination within the characters. And some higher frames per second for more advanced movement like jumping, running, and walking, which the players will be doing a lot. And UI and UX animations for conflicts and achievements, like yay, like inventing, or like oh no, like cool, like if something bad happens, like Emma came up with that idea, I think it's really great. And some things that work with us and the programming team is no weight painting. Did we do that for Doodle Dogs, right?
No, weight painting is
It's
basically
rigged.
where you have like, it's rigging.
It's rigging.
Rigging is difficult, and
It takes time
to do it, so you have to do like sprite animations.
Yes. And what to look out for, possibly more dynamic movements with this simple, these ideal, quick, lively things. It would maybe have more characters, like more, not characters, but more different types of movements within our character. And I think that could pull together its cute, whimsical style and its Tim Burton-y kind of vibe. And I will leave it to the programmers, or the designers.
Hi, I'm Lexi, and I'll be giving this presentation on our UI plans and UX plans. So jumping off of the UX ideas for making those kind of achievements and those conflicts, notifications on your screen, you could add to that with more diegetic UI. With character dialogue, when you interact with the NPCs, we have like a little screen of the character dialogue similar to Pokemon or other games where you interact with NPCs. So it like immerses you into the world, and furthers the plot with the user experience. And some of our UI will just be the basic fundamental UI components, like our joystick control that we talked about earlier, our interact button when we're in the gameplay part so we can interact with NPCs, game objects, maybe even a monster. And our settings button will be in the top corner and we can access our volume sliders to adjust the volume, and then our exit button to go back to the main menu. And here is an example of what our UI would look like. So in the bottom left corner we have our joystick control. So that's what we use to kind of move around like any other joystick you'd see in the game. On the bottom right corner, we have the interact button. So when you're near an object, you press that and it interacts with the object, the NPC or the monster. And in our middle of the screen, we have our interactable. So that's just a little torch thing that we have drawn. And then that circle around it is where if the player's in that circle, and it presses the interact button, then they actually interact with the object and another animation or something will follow. And in that top right corner, we have our settings button, and then right above that are some of our examples of what you would see when you open the settings menu or any other main menu. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Daniel Moran. I work in the design department. I'm going to be showing you some of the sounds and music you're going to be having in this game. The theme we're going for is whimsical and melancholy, fitting the art style, of course. Each minigame is going to have different sounds or music that relate to what's happening in the gameplay. The genre that we're going to be using mostly is eerie because we want to sort of have that gradient going from whimsical to eerie. It's going to be inspired by games such as Little Nightmares, Hollow Knight, Frambo, and Undertale. The music loses its cold touch when you're encountering with like an energetic or like happy character. And then we have some sample sound effects. You'll hear creaking, maybe a low growling, some whispering for more eerie areas. The train we're going to be having, you can kind of see in the art slide. The sound of birds chirping and an NPC murmuring.
Be able to click on let's see, over here. Here we go.
I think next up, we have the sample from The Room, which is what you wake up, and then you're in this sort of eerie, sort of darkish room in the mansion. That'll just work there. Thank you. What to look out for? Music could be lost in the story if the volume is like too low, like you can't really hear it. And syncing audio to the gameplay could be hard, obviously, because of the scope of this game. We don't have time for something like adaptive audio. What works, though, is that the game's audio can be easily researched, references a lot of examples of gothic-sounding audio, sort of happy audio out there. The theme is very easy to follow. You can kind of understand if you're in a scary area or a happy area based on the music or the sounds. And it adds sort of a curious element to the gameplay, like what am I going to hear next? Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Aiden. I work in the social media department. I'm going to be talking about marketing. So the games we're basing this off of are Don't Starve and Machinarium. So for Don't Starve, the aspect is a similar art style and the feel. For Machinarium, it's the similar puzzle and the gameplay. So some consumer feedback is for Don't Starve is the memorable graphics and fun gameplay, the challenge and survival mechanics, and the robust crafting system. But what we don't want is minimal narrative and combat that is unfun. So for Machinarium, what works is the amazing art style, the engaging story, and our creative puzzles. What we're looking out for is like boring puzzles or anything that's repetitive. So for our media process, our main platforms will be Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We have a 4-way process. So if we're filming, we film gameplay, team building, and team bonding activities. And then we're going to move on to editing. For our editing process, this is the part where we edit the videos that fans will see, and we're adding music and other sound effects. Then we'll go into uploading, where we, after edit, we will upload our videos onto the internet, full videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. So after this, we reap the profits. So this is after the uploads in which we look at the likes, the posts, and the comments, and then we just repeat the process of uploading. Thank you.
Alright, really quick, I mean, everyone out there is going to hear a disembodied voice. I'm just the man behind the curtain right now. But we do have some questions from our online participants. Number one, though this has been answered, but if you want to kind of bring it all in, Ms. Barrett wants to know, what were the team's inspirations in designing this game, and what were our influences?
Well, I came up with the gist of it. But we're all working together as a team to come up with some new ideas. But I was personally inspired by some simple styles like Tim Burton, Edward Gorey, and kind of just like a cute gothic thing that you can kind of. You want to come up and say something too?
I really like Shantan, and it made me think of Shantan, and so I was like doing some kind of whimsical stuff like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, kind of Alice in Wonderlandy.
Yeah.
Kind of how do I explain this? Kind of something relatable, like how you go to bed and everything's just whack. Something kind of different, but something that not that you've seen before, but something that you know that would have a similar vibe, so you know that the game would be good. And just overall inspired by like really cute, dark like TV shows and games, and just to give it that lovable experience. And like I'd say that's how I got inspired for it.
Well, you're up here, since you did the animation slides, and if anyone else can chime in on this, another question from Mr. Mitchell. For the animation team, are there challenges with changing the frame rate based on different movements and actions? And if so, how will you address those?
I'm not sure. What do you think?
It's not that difficult to
Yeah.
like do that. I know how to do sprite animations. I know how to do sprite animation in Unity. It's not like that crazy difficult. I learned it one afternoon, so
Yeah.
you can just like really do anything with it. It's
I
cool.
think that there would be also like limited animation with side characters, but a lot of animation with her since she's the character, obviously. So I think that changing frame rate won't be as difficult as it sounds, since I think we're probably going to animate.
None of the side characters are going to do anything more than like 3, and
Yeah,
the main
more than,
character's
like,
gonna
just,
do
like-
5. So
Yeah, just kind of idle
Bouncing.
poses. Yeah. So I think that's pretty clear. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Some from Michael Chang. Let's see. Do you want, Michael, is it okay if I unmute you and you can go through your short list of questions here? It says I can't unmute. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Hey, there we go. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Hey guys. So I just had a couple of questions about the team's thoughts. So like, really love the way that you guys talked about your inspirations. So one of the things that I was curious about is like I think you guys mentioned that you were inspired by games of sort of both the I guess the Machinarium as well as the other game. So the question I was going to ask is like, so it's great to have that sort of as an anchor. When you guys sort of think about like, sort of like talking about the game as in like an elevator pitch in 25 words or less, how would you go and describe like what makes the game like truly unique and sort of different? Even sort of better improved from like a Machinarium or anything else. So how would you guys sort of describe that? What is VX? What makes it different, unique, and innovative, so to speak?
All right, so something I think that makes it unique is its simple ideas that you haven't really seen in other things before. Like we have just a giant whale in like your dream space, and just all sorts of random things. We've seen dream elements before, but the way we're doing this, I think, is going to be very different in its gothic way.
Dream-based stuff doesn't usually go as wacky as dreams actually are, and I want to
Yeah.
actually like capture that where it just changes, weird crap's happening.
For real.
To see people in your life.
And it's just like, what are you doing
What are
here?
you doing here?
Hi. You know?
In terms of gameplay too, I'll chime in on that because I think I may be the only one who's played Machinarium. It's a bit of an older game, but Machinarium is just a straight. It's not a platformer, but it is directly 2D, and you puzzle solve in 2D. And then Don't Starve, it has the unique kind of aesthetic of being 2.5D but with 2D art elements. So it's really trying to bring that kind of smooth gameplay feel, but from Don't Starve. But instead of it being a survival kind of actiony, Minecraft type of gameplay, it's going to be more about solving puzzles and progressing in narrative.
For me, also,
Yeah.
what's different is, I think the really cool thing, I'm a reader, and the really cool thing about games is that they can bring you into a world. And so I think our game is kind of going the opposite direction, whereas like Don't Starve might not have had as much narrative. We have enough narrative that like not only are you just bringing it into the world visually and with the controls, but you're also bringing people into the world with writing and storytelling.
Cool. So I had one more question, and this one is kind of a different topic altogether. So I was just kind of wondering, like, so like Unity just made the announcement, I think in the past week or so, it was kind of changing its overall cost model, where I think for mobile developers, it's kind of going to where price cost per install model impact the cost of development as well as overall publishing and launching for a lot of developers. So I'm just kind of curious, like, have you guys thought about that at all, or heard about that, and any thoughts about how you would think through any impact, especially when it comes time to launching and the cost of launching and publishing, so to speak? Yeah, any thoughts or feedback there from you guys?
So I can address that, and if anyone else is. So that news came what? Wednesday? Yeah. And we were just at the end of our ideation phase, and we just locked into this idea that we're all excited about. And aside from just being a Unity development house anyway, which we have been for the last several years, so it's unknown territory for a lot of people, and this question got asked by a few people actually in the chat. Long story short, we're just gonna kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. As far as our games that have been put out, I know I just checked Andy's Donuts, which has been out the longest, is still under 5,000 downloads. So I don't see that really affecting our team here, because we don't really have the capital or the resources to like do a huge marketing campaign, because that does cost a lot of money. So I don't anticipate this reaching too far from a realistic sense. I mean, if we were trying to make money on this, then that's something we would spend money on, right, as a marketing campaign, and look at our return on investment. My biggest concern for those listening that are privy to this whole thing in the industry right now and wondering, my concern is just how relevant Unity is going to be in the next 2 or 3 years after a lot of developers decide to maybe leave the platform. So this may just the beginning of our transition to being an Unreal team rather than a Unity team. But like I said, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For the purposes of this game, because we have all of our engineers are already trained in Unity and know how to do that. We're just going to move forward with using Unity this year, and after this project we'll reconvene try to figure out where we're going to go in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your questions. Let me see if we're just about, oh, it's 10:32, the development? Oh, I think it's 10:35. Let me grab the chat real quick and see if there's any questions. Yeah, the other ones were also, about unions, so hopefully I answer those questions. Well, thank you everybody so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. I want to give our team one more round of applause. About this is that, 6-7 months from now, you'll remember, oh yeah, that meeting, and we saw those slides, but you're going to see it in an actual, interactive, able to play game. And that's always the coolest thing when you get to that point. So, thank you very much. Oh, question?
No, not a question because I'm not industry.
Sure.
I'm a layman, but I was super impressed with what I just saw. Wow, we're only a month into school and you already got here. So super impressed with all the work that's happening here under your leadership. So thank you very much. I really would love to highlight DSA at a board meeting coming soon.
Sure, we'll send you
I'll
some of
reach
our
out.
sample artwork.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds great. Thank you very much for letting me be here.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Cool. You did it! Yay.